Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Hey You Guys. Hope you're well, and Happy New Year. It's been
New Year.
Happy New Year from me and Linda, who are here. I hope you're having a very pleasant 2022 thus far. It's been a bit of a weird couple of months, hasn't it? But alas, we are here and we are back. And we thought we'd bring you some movie reviews. And this is going to be the first episode of what we're going to call the Hey You Guys Review Show. We thought we'd talk about some of the movies that are out. This week, there is one big one. There's a few other small ones, which we will talk about. But there is only one big one this week. And that's mainly because there's been a few, release date changes. Obviously, everyone knows what's going on. So we thought we would give you our review of the big release this week, which is Scream, aka Scream 5. Let's get it right. It is Scream 5. On this show, I'm going to be joined every week by the lovely Linda Marric, who is here. Hi, Linda. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Very well.
Lovely to be back.
So nice to be back. It's so nice to be back. Yeah, it's been
really nice. Let's stick to it.
Yes, we're going to try and do this weekly throughout the year. So we're starting as we mean to go on in 2022. We'll also have a few special guests as we go. He doesn't know this yet, but we're going to obviously have our good friend Stefan Pape when he's free. He's a busy man. He's going on his honeymoon, thankfully, after a few false starts this weekend. So hopefully he'll join us in a couple of weeks to talk about some of the bigger movies. And as we go along, there'll be more and more movies, hopefully. Once the variant and everything calms down again, fingers crossed, cinemas will be back to normal. But there is only one place to start this week on our show. And that is, of course, as I say, with Scream 5, aka Scream. It's similar in tone in terms of title than Halloween, as in it's a Halloween sequel, but it's not a Halloween sequel, but it's called Halloween. Same with like the third Shaft film. It was called Shaft, even though it's a sequel. I don't know. That's what we're going to talk about. However, what we're talking about with the title and with the film and with everything else in between is kind of what Scream is talking about, which is I thought was pretty cool. Anyway, Linda, so how did you? I mean, you founded this franchise. Is this something that you were excited for?
I really love
before about this particular one.
I really love the original Scream. Absolutely loved it because I saw it as it's almost as a sort of an homage to the slasher movie. And I wasn't really that convinced about whatever came after it, but I really loved the original film. I thought it was brilliantly done, very sort of knowing, very sort of aware of itself, funny, I self-reflexive. I really loved the original one. I
put this thing on Twitter yesterday as this recording goes out. It was yesterday, I think, just about yesterday or Thursday, how I like the second one more than the first one, and I got a bit of a ripping from a few people, but I stand by that sentiment. I love the first one. Enough. I love the first one, but I like the second one very, very much because Timothy Olyphant and Laurie Metcalf are in it as well, so you get a bit of bonus. But anyway, enough of that. But I'm a huge fan of this franchise. I wasn't a huge fan of 3. Wasn't a huge fan of 4. So going into
I think 4 is the worst.
So going into this, it was like, is this like a cash cow kind of thing? Is this the trying very much to do what Halloween, following the footsteps of what Halloween has done and what Candyman has done to a degree? Although Candyman is a bit different, even though it's called Candyman, it's kind of, it is kind of the same. Actually, we're talking about Candyman. It's a sequel, but not a sequel. But all of that stuff that we're talking about in terms of the reboots, the re-energizing of franchises, sequels, etc., is kind of talked about in this film. It kind of brings what it was talking about in the 90s into the 21st century, where franchises and interconnected universes and the word legacy is now a thing. Legacy characters. Again, very similar to Halloween. Jamie Lee Curtis is the legacy character in Scream. It's not a spoiler to say this, dissimilar to say Spider-Man No Way Home, where their names are on the poster. They're in the poster. Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, David Arquette are back in this. And Marley Shelton, who was in the Scream 4. Yeah, she's back as well. But it is very much in keeping with what, a lot of these movies have been talking about these days, where they're bringing the franchise back, giving it a new rejig, giving it a new fresh take, but also having a connecting tissue to the original, mainly the original film, I guess, with this one, even though it's connected to all of the films. It's the first one, similar to Ghostbusters Afterlife. They talk about the first film more than they talk about the second film, but there's still one thing. Do you think they did that quite well in this? Because I quite liked the fact I was talking about what the film they were making was actually going to be about.
I think the best bits of the film were the bits where they were paying homage to the legacy characters. An expression that I absolutely despise, but hey. But at the same time, I thought it was very funny. I thought it was really well. The gags were really well written, and the delivery, specifically from what's his name? Is it Jack Quaid, or is that his name, or the
Jack Quaid, who plays
yeah,
Melissa
is that
Barrero's boyfriend.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought he was fantastic. He's got his parents' talent. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. The all the funniest lines are said by him. He's fantastic in this. I thought it was, again, the gags were brilliant, and I thought the delivery was brilliant, but I just thought it was so messy. It was a mess. It just did not make much sense. It was like, let's take a bunch of ideas, just throw them in and see what sticks. But some of it does a fair bit of fan service, obviously, like, because that's what these so-called legacy films are doing
about these days,
and it's fine. I think if you're a fan of Scream, that's what you want to see. But I thought the storyline was really messy. I just didn't get on with it at all. I was like, what? Excuse me, what are you talking about? It's like it's like a film into a film into a film into a film, and it just, at the end of it, it was like almost too self-reflexive, almost too concerned with its own folklore to actually work, and it did get on my nerves eventually.
I was going to say, when you said it was messy, I was going to say pun intended, because it is a messy film in many other ways. I actually I enjoyed it much more than I had anticipated, because I quite liked that stuff. I'm a sucker for kind of nostalgia when it's done right. I was never a fan of I've not been a fan of the Halloween reboots, even though it's sort of being recalls, as we're calling them now, recalls. That's the terminology, recall. Was not a huge fan of it, and I love Jamie Lee Curtis. I was never actually, I'm not a huge fan of Halloween, full stop. So controversial in itself.
Fair enough.
But then flip side of Ghostbusters Afterlife, which has got a lot of, Ghostbusters is a strange thing because there's so much toxic fandom, which they talk about in this film as well, which I won't give away too many spoilers, but they do talk about what is going around Hollywood at the moment, which is a lot of talk about IPs and about how fandom is driving things in a good way and in a bad way. You can make your own assumptions into that, and I guess nostalgia is it depends on how connected you are to that. Like with Ghostbusters, for me, I'm so connected to Ghostbusters, but all the stuff that did in Ghostbusters Afterlife was great for me. I understand why it's not for a lot of people. Completely.
I liked it. I liked Ghostbusters. I thought it was fine. I thought it was fine, actually.
But what the great thing about this particular Scream movie, which is written and directed by the guys, by the guys that did Ready or Not from 2019.
Yeah.
Brilliant,
which I loved.
Brilliant little comedic thriller slasher horror film, which is great. And it's also co-written by James Vanderbilt, who was part of Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. So what he's talking about, he's kind of lived himself. He's been in a studio system where they're trying to make an Amazing Spider-Man 2, etc. We know how they went down. But I think Scream is the perfect kind of vehicle to talk about this stuff, because when it did it in the first instance, it was doing it in terms of the slasher movies and the tropes of horror, particularly the slasher movies and the final girl stuff and all that stuff that was part of the subgenre. It took it down really well and kind of contorted it in such a refreshing and satirical and biting and very funny way. Like you say, the first two films are very, very funny, but also they are slasher films. So I think this one did all that stuff for the modern day versions really, really well. And I thought there's a scene which I won't spoil for anybody, but they talk about, like I've mentioned, IPs and what Hollywood is like these days, and these legacy characters and how the fandom and everything else. There's a great joke about a particular Hollywood director and a particular film or two films that he's made, and he doesn't get the due that he maybe deserves. Some great stuff in there, some great gags and some great jokes in there. But it is a really good slasher film as well. I liked the slasher stuff. I thought that was really effective. Yes, it follows the beats and everything else about a slasher film as you would expect, but it contorts them in such a way that it felt like watching the first two films for the first time again and going, this is actually really clever.
I thought there was a degree of smugness to it that eventually really got the better of me. I just thought it sounded like someone had swallowed a horror film handbook and proceeded to regurgitate every single bit of info they'd learned. It's almost like, when we sit next to someone who is really into a certain genre and they know everything about it, and then they can't stop themselves from just I think in the end, I just got a little bit bored of all of that sort of know-it-all stuff. Oh, my favorite film was the Babadook. All that nonsense. I mean, in fact,
Oh yeah,
audible
we forgot to mention all of those,
yeah.
didn't they? But they talk
Yeah,
these young kids are brought up how it's changed, in nowadays,
yeah.
obviously Halloween and Friday the 13th, everything else. And in this one, because of how horror is these days, they talk about the Babadook, and it follows, and Hereditary, and
Yeah.
I don't think it's Midsummer, but like those are the kind of movies because they're existential and
Because
they
they're
have all
cool
these other
and-
things come on.
Yeah.
So it's cool how they weave those in as well, how those are the movies
Yeah.
that they mention, and everyone's like, I think you can sum it up by obviously the classic first scene is in this film where there's a phone call and everything else. But I like the juxtaposition between the girl on her mobile phone and be able to do everything from a mobile phone, but it's still the house phone that rings and the one she has to answer on. I kind of like that kind of showing them off against each other. I thought that
actually, you say that there is a really good. Oh, I really like. There's a sort of a strand of 90s nostalgia to this, which I really loved, which warmed my heart because I am, I love the 90s, and I sort of the original film came out then, and I think even the look of it is very 90s. The teenagers are dressed very retro 90s.
Yeah.
I think I really liked that about it, and I like I said, I did not hate the film. I thought it, most of it I liked, but some bits of it really rubbed me the wrong way because I just thought, that's enough. Okay, enough. We get it. We get it. Your horror. We don't, don't go on about it.
Yeah. Although I also liked the little in jokes about like streaming and Netflix. There's a bit where I won't spoil it for anybody, but one of the characters goes on Netflix to watch the old Stab movie so that he can be prepared for the new Ghostface. And I thought that's quite funny, which is kind of how it is now.
What did you think of the performances?
I thought they were decent enough. No one really, no disrespect to them, no one really stands out. It's a good kind of ensemble, good young ensemble. They all do their jobs very, very well. I thought that Jack Quaid was pretty good. I thought Melissa Barrera was pretty good, and Jenny Ortega, they were pretty good as well. They're never going to be able to give the most amazing performances in this because it's a certain film, isn't it? But they do the job pretty well. What did you make of the the legacy characters coming back?
I love them. I was so pleased that they were there. I really am a big fan of Dave Arquette, and I mean, he's very silly, and I was so happy to see him on there, and I love Courtney Cox, obviously, who doesn't, and Neve Campbell, and who I think it was the right decision, and to sort of have them at the heart of the story towards the end, not to spoil anything, having them all at the heart of the story towards the end. I think it was quite a genius move, and I'm very, very pleased that they did that. I think the film will do well with sort of younger and fans of the original film. So
yeah, I also like the way, very similar to what we talked about Jamie Lee Curtis, Halloween. This isn't another, I don't think it would have worked if it was another Sidney Prescott story. I think the way it works with the Laurie Strode character actually works because of there's a lot more time between the Jamie Lee Curtis now and the one in the 1970s, whereas there's not as much distance between Sidney Prescott because there's been 4 other films, and the 4th film was out 10 years ago-ish.
Yeah,
the distance isn't quite, so I wouldn't have liked it if it was just them again. I think it's good that they are, like you say, kind of in the background, but then they come in the moments that you would expect them to appear in, which I thought was good. Without, again, not to give away any spoilers. I've actually just clicked on Jack Quaid. It is Meg Ryan who is his mum.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I was like, is
Meg
it
Ryan? I was so. I looked him up because I was like, that's great. Actually, and then I looked back. Makes complete sense because he's got oodles of talents from both parents. So shall we do stars then?
Let's do stars. You go first, ladies first.
I've given it 3 out of 5 on my review for the Jewish Chronicle, which you can go and check out after you've watched this.
Yes, I reviewed it on People's Movies, and I gave it 4 because I really liked
it. Good. I mean, loads of people gave it 4. I think that's good.
I think the surprise element of what it was doing was a lot for me in the terms of, I thought it was just going to be another, as I said before, kind of not cash cow, but you know what I mean? It was going to be the same again, but it kind of was, but kind of wasn't. It was kind of different. I liked that. I did see on Twitter this morning, Eric Weber, one of the critics in the States that I know that kind of talked to on Twitter, he said it was so meta that he thought at the end when Ghostface revealed himself, it was going to be Deadpool, which I thought was quite funny. It was quite funny. I thought it was quite funny because you're like, oh yeah, could you just imagine it was just Deadpool? And it's just like, hello. Anyway, yes, I gave it 4 stars. So you can check out both our reviews, but also, we've reviewed it here for you. So hopefully you've enjoyed it. Linda, did you just want to very quickly touch on the other releases?
Sadly, we were supposed to be reviewing Cyrano as well, but that's been put back, and so we will review it on its week of release. The only other film really that I've watched this week and reviewed was Save the Cinema, which is on Sky Movies, which I thought was actually fine. Very cheesy. I mean, it's based on a true story. You've seen it, haven't you?
No, I haven't seen it yet, but is this the one?
Oh, you haven't? Okay, yeah. So let me just
Steven
explain.
Spielberg or something, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
It's based on a real life story of this family, this hairdresser from Wales, small town in Wales, Carmarthen, who she was the leader of a youth theatre group putting on plays at the local Art Deco cinema, which is called the Lyric Cinema, like a 1930s cinema that's been around, or 30s or even late 20s cinema that's been around forever. And she suddenly the local authorities want to demolish it, because it's not bringing in any money, so they want to demolish it and build a shopping center at its place. The hairdresser and her family decide to sort of squat the cinema to stop them from demolishing it, and then they start putting on old movies for older customers and to come and watch. One of the movies is How Green Was My Valley, which John Ford movie, which won countless Oscars many moons ago. And then to attract younger customers, they decide they want to bring Jurassic Park to be shown. This is set in 1993, obviously. So they bring to the new Spielberg film Jurassic Park, but the UK distributor refuses to let them have it. So I'm at risk of telling you the full story. You know what? I'm going to stop there. I mean, there is a strand of a story to do with Steven Spielberg. That's nice. I will leave it there. So I don't want to spoil it. You probably could go and.
Sounds quite good. Yeah, it's on Sky Cinema today, isn't it? I believe.
Yeah, and Samantha Morton stars. I adore Samantha Morton. I think she's fantastic.
Oh, Samantha Morton's in it. Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah, Samantha Morton is in it. I mean,
to watch it.
It's cheesy as anything, and it's very weepy. And Tom Felton from Harry Potter. It's cheesy as anything, but I thought it was quite endearing, to be honest. As a cinema lover, as someone who who is always there to support non-closure of cinemas, I absolutely loved it. Yeah.
Good. I think also this week Cal and Memoria are out, but I haven't seen either of those.
Yeah,
unfortunately. I think it's a strange thing because the cinema world closes for those 2 weeks over Christmas. You have to kind of play catch up a little bit for the early releases. But
next week we have
next week's quite a big week.
Nightmare Alley.
We have
which I just saw yesterday.
I haven't seen it Monday.
Oh, I loved it.
Journal for Jordan next week as well.
Yeah. Journal for Jordan.
That's that with next week.
Oh, well. Belfast.
Belfast. It's a big week next week, and
next week's a big week.
Our reviews. I've seen Belfast months ago. I saw it at the London Film Festival.
Same.
So it's good that it's finally getting a release now. And fingers crossed that they'll all do a bit better over here than they have in the States. But that's just sadly. It's just kind of the nature of.
I will probably do better here because it's a local issue, and so
yeah. Well, there's obviously the thing about older audiences aren't quite at that point of being ready to go back to the cinema. So someone like Cyrano, for example, would have attracted an older audience, wouldn't it, because of what it's about and everything else and everything. But that's out on the 25th, I think. But it's out. I think there's previews on Valentine's Day, so we can probably review it that weekend to make it a bit easier. Anyway, yes.
So come back next week. We'll talk to you about Nightmare Alley because I am very excited to talk about that.
Nightmare Alley, Journal for Jordan, Belfast. Big
Yeah.
week. There's
I'm probably not gonna be seeing Jonathan Jordan, but I will
I'm seeing
try.
it. I'm seeing
Yeah,
it.
so you can review it.
We can mention it.
I'm probably not
Michael B.
seeing
Jordan and Denzel. Of course, we have to talk about it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Right then.
apologies if this was a little bit rushed. We had some technical issues beforehand, but
Oh yeah.
it recorded, so hopefully you'll be watching this over the weekend. If you don't already, make sure you subscribe to Hey You Guys, clicking the little subscribe button below, and give us a little thumbs up on the video. Helps us to be seen in all the feeds and everything else. Make sure you check out all of the great coverage on Hey You Guys. There's some fantastic interviews that went up just before Christmas. There's some more coming this week, and every single week we seem to be always interviewing famous people, but it's not a bad life.
And please share the video.
Yeah,
with your
social
friends
media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, everything else. Make sure you follow us. Make sure
and we'll be back.
Maybe we'll follow back if we're feeling so obliged. We will be back next week with another episode of the Hey You Guys Movie Show, Review Show. Did we decide?
The review show, the Hey You Guys Review Show. Yes.
Come back here next week. We've got some more reviews for you. Until then, have a fantastic weekend, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys.
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey,